Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Today we are going to be discussing high-impact incentive compensation reporting and dashboarding. My name is Kristen Brown. I'm the Marketing Events Manager with Ironside. Just a couple things before we get started. All Q&A will be filtered throughout the presentation. So if you have any questions, just type them into the dashboard on your computer, and all questions will be answered at the end of the webinar. Also, a copy of the slide deck and presentation webinar replay will be available within the next couple of days for you to listen to it again, as well as forward to your colleagues. So just quickly here, I'm just going to pass it over to my colleague, Tom DePalma, who is an account executive at Ironside.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go over a brief overview of Ironside before we get the actual incentive compensation portion of this kicked off. So Ironside is a multidisciplinary technology and advisory consulting organization. We specialize in all facets of business analytics and data warehousing. Our organization is recognized by 500 plus customers in IBM for having the top Cognos analysis and technical talent. The slide you're viewing now is a brief overview on what we do. On the top, you'll see our vendor-agnostic information management and business intelligence advisory practice. Underneath that, you'll see the four main areas of our business. Business intelligence, where we can help with dashboarding, reporting, mobile, data visualization, and self-service. Information management, including data integration, data warehousing, governance, big data, and Hadoop. Advanced analytics, including predictive analytics, predictive customer intelligence, predictive maintenance and quality, and performance management, which we're going to get into a little bit more here, including financial performance management and incentive compensation management. Our onshore remote development or solution center are available for all of our customers to be able to do report developing and any other needs that you may have from a consulting standpoint without having to bring a consultant on site. A lot of our current clients using the Solution Center are very happy with this, as it allows for a lower cost alternative to bringing that consultant on site. We also offer training for all of the solutions that we sell. And lastly, any product that we sell, we can also help you with managed services or hosting. If you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to reach out to your account executive. If you are unaware of your account executive, please reach Kristen Brown, and she will get you pointed in the right direction. This slide here is a little bit more of a higher level view of what exactly we do. We exist to make the world of business smarter. Take data and turn it into valuable insights to drive positive business outcomes. Ironside by the numbers. We're founded in 1999 by two former IBM employees, even before IBM acquired Cognos. We have 100 plus employees in 7 offices, headquartered up here in Lexington, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston, with offices in Philadelphia, New York, Detroit, Austin, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia. Currently, we are the #1 business analytics partner for IBM. Last year, we were number 546 on the Inc. 5000 list. The metric that we really like talking about the most is the 500 plus happy clients, because it really shows that we care and we really pride ourselves on the ability to get to the root of the business problem and solve that problem for our customers, which keeps them coming back and keeps them referring us to their friends and colleagues. Lastly, our latest achievement was we were named number 7 by Boston Business Journal on their fastest growing list in the Boston area. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Orrin Mink, who heads up our sales performance management and incentive compensation management practice here at Ironside. Take it away, Orrin.
Thank you, Tom. So immediately I'd like to get into this nice visual here that we kind of see, which do you trust more with your credit card? And it kind of relates to a study a while back that basically said the appeal of the overall visual design of a site, including layout, topography, font size, and color schemes, is the #1 factor we use to evaluate a website's credibility. So take that to the enterprise reporting and dashboards, that the visualization, the quality of the report really is what brings out the credibility and trust in the numbers. So people will come back and trust that report. That kind of sets the framework for the rest of our discussion to get that high impact reporting. Here's today's agenda, and I'm going to try something a little bit different. I know people are really busy. Sometimes they just have a short lunch break. So I'm going to try to compact the presentation, some highlights at the beginning, and show a demo in the first 10 minutes. And then we'll go through this agenda in a little more detail and a little more depth. So if you're looking for some of that dashboarding basics and requirements gathering detail, I'll hit those slides later on. And first we'll do a quick highlights. So while we're talking about reporting and dashboarding, we are focusing a little bit on sales performance management. Sometimes I might say incentive compensation management, ICM, but sales performance management encompasses all of that. And there, basically it's these areas on the right: compensation, territories, and quotas, and these operational areas of planning, designing, allocating, and managing. Just to give you a quick overview. Pain points of reporting. So it does say SPM reporting, but as I just said, there's a lot of things here that affect all areas of the business. If you're in finance, you want to be enabled so you can answer the questions. The user experience, Ironside has really pivoted in the last couple of years that we're really honing into the user experience. User interfaces are always important, and I don't need to clue everyone in that mobile first design is very important. And we'll touch on some of these a little more in depth in a little bit. Last month I was at the IBM conference division, and while this slide is specifically talks about SPM and ICM, it's really relevant to any type of reporting. Before you have this reporting of any kind, you have some sort of chaos, and you implement something and you start stabilizing the environment, your operations, building trust, and as time goes on, the value increases and you optimize your system. Decisions and processes improve. It's really another way to look at maturity over time. And with that, I'd like to get right into some examples. So this example is a poor user experience. And this is actually something earlier this year that I helped the company on. And so imagine you log into a system and immediately you have no data to see. You have to click on a drop-down, fill in one parameter, hit submit. Click on another drop-down, hit submit. And then from there, you finally get some data rendering onto your screen. And as you can see, the alignment is off. I'm not sure what I'm looking for. What's the most important information? And by this time, I'm probably lost. Just as if you logged in early on, you could see the goldfish has 9 seconds attention span. Average American adult has about 8 seconds. By this time, you've possibly lost me. So while the project was focused on updating their 2015 compensation plans, we did enhance their report. So we took away some of the clutter, fixed the alignment. Now somebody logs in, they immediately see results. They don't have to click on anything. It would make sense for the user experience. You would want to see the most up-to-date set of results. In addition, we have some KPIs highlighted that directly affect compensation at the top right, and then you have your high-level pay, and so on. So although this is specific to ICM, Cognos ICM, it still follows some of the basic tenets of reporting. It all fits on one screen, and all very important factors. So now I'll show you another way to look at this information. And the first thing I'll show you is a demonstration of one of many examples of Ironside has developed AUX, It was really developed by some others at Ironside, and they called it Analytics User Experience, and I've just kind of changed it accidentally to Accelerated User Experience. And really the point is that we're trying to take this consumerized approach to enterprise analytics and reporting. We're used to these nice phones with great applications, and so we're trying to jumpstart for companies. We've been successful doing this in several lines of business, and now we're hoping to bring this to the incentive compensation world. So in this first example, it's just a basic dashboard of 9 KPIs, and this is a mortgage banking environment. So we see cost per loan funding and several KPIs. What I like about it is it's quick and basic. You can see the arrow is telling you prior month. It's going down, and you're in the target range, so the square is green. And with all good reporting, it always helps if you could click through and get some additional information. This could help you with getting that slow observations and to analyze the data a little bit more. It also helps build trust. So I can see some detail behind that number. Another aspect of this dashboard, let's say I'm not interested in loss mitigation. You've got an element of that self-service. Maybe I'm interested in 30-year fixed rate. I click there, and now I've got that instead. So this is just one of many examples. Ironside has implemented several AUX solutions. And now I'd like to show you an example for sales performance management. This is a proof of concept design and that we've set up. And so the setup is, consider yourself, we're here on June 23rd, quarter is coming to an end, and I'm a sales manager, and I'm about to get on a plane to go meet some clients across the country. I didn't have a chance to check how we're doing, what's going on. I get on the plane. Luckily, I've had this report pushed out to me either through a native application on my tablet or through email, and now I can look at some information as well as create an action list for my day. So immediately when I log in, I see I have some tasks that have pulled up. I've got some payouts to approve. I've got some splits to approve. And if I was connected to the internet right now, I could click on this and go and approve those. But since I'm on the plane and I just want to look at some other things, I'll just put those down on my task list for the day. Now, immediately we see a lot of different things on here, but in good fashion, usually we start at the top left. That's how our brain, usually in the Western world, our brains like to work, and we're going to see team sales, then average deal size. If it was that loan example, maybe it's average loan size, just a relevant KPI. And of course, being in sales, I'm always interested in my pay. In addition, you could see these little micro charts. That is really showing us some additional information, the trend over time. Then I can come down here and I can see the overall performance. I have an annual quota, so therefore this lighter green is staying the same color or same level all the way across. And of course, that key metric that a lot of people in sales look for is year-to-date attainment. Before I go on to see some things forward-looking, I might be interested to go back, and I can click on this slider to go back a month, or maybe come back to June. And since I'm a manager of a team, maybe I want to see the team results, add to my task list of things to do. I'm going to scroll across, and I can see how everybody's doing on my team. And maybe I see here that Paul is at 34% attainment. I might want to email him and set up a time for some coaching so we can improve his numbers. Now I want to add to my task list, how's our pipeline doing? So here I have, these are the value of my pipeline at different stages, while this is the quantity in my pipeline on this side. And I can look I might want to call Dan Huddle because he has this $1.5 million deal that I'd really like to close this month. But I got to also look at what's at the commit stage by filtering down. I click there, and now I just see the commit stage. So I might want to even just take this list right here and say, let me go follow up on each one of these people because we're coming up on quarter end, and I would really like to close these deals. As we move on, so while we read left to right, we also look clockwise. So this is another example of you can say a widget on the screen that sometimes we stop at top 5 lists, but maybe we want a little more. So we've added this scroll bar right here. And in this case, we're kind of predicting. We've gone through a predictive model and said, what is the likelihood of these deals to close? So if we click here, you can see this is the most likely thing, deal to close. And here are the different factors that make up this score. So with this dashboard, I've now seen how sales is going up today, what might happen in the near future, and what could I do to help affect that change and to close these deals before the end of the quarter. All very important to my team and my company. And we'll talk a little bit more about this dashboard towards the end. So as I said, that was kind of a very quick summary and demo of what we're going to go over. So now we can go a little more in depth and go through a lot more content. I hope you guys stick around. So we talked about this earlier. You know, we're talking about enablement. Do the reports answer questions and drive action? So hopefully that dashboard would drive immediate actions like follow up, set up meetings, and so on. The user experience, as we saw with that poor user experience, how many clicks does it take to get to the answer? And right now we have to think about mobile first sometimes, but as well, so that dashboard we just looked at works on a mobile device as well as a browser. And you got to consider executive views. Once they see their salespeople see these amazing insights and visuals, they're going to want this as well, and they're definitely on a mobile device. And we can't forget about advanced analytics like predictive and even prescriptive. So ask yourself, how mature are you? And of course, I'm talking about reporting. So in this first pillar, if your company's in this place, I hope you contact us immediately. Using Excel reports, you'll only be able to be reactive. There's a low value here. There's a value, but it's a low value, and we'd like to increase your insights and return on investment. And moving to the next pillar, here we're getting a little more descriptive. Maybe you're using a product like Cognos ICM for incentive comp, and you're getting these automated statements. And as we move forward, you know, now somewhere between these pillars, you're adding some additional visuals, and you're starting to add predictive and building trust in the team. And eventually, you're hoping to be prescriptive. Maybe instead of just predicting what should happen, the system is deciding for you what is the best choice of direction for you. In all of these cases, you're increasing insights and ROI as you increase your level of maturity. So as I said, we'll talk about some dashboard basics. And this is more looking at the requirements gathering portion. But there's a lot here. So what is a dashboard? So Stephen Few is a well-known thought leader. He's written several books, including Information Dashboard Design. It's a visual display. Most important information. It's got objectives, single screen, and monitored at a glance. So where do we start? So just like this executive, you need to know your audience, business goals. You want to have your story. It's always telling a story, and you want to make sure you have the data to support this. So more or less, these are high level, some of the things we'll go over. And we'll share a copy of this presentation, as Kristen said. So in the first one, you got to set the right scope for the audience. So FLW is frontline worker. So in sales, that's account executives, salespeople, and the sales rep may need to see every transaction, but only care about their overall attainment percentage as a KPI. On the other hand, an executive may only want to see total sales, but see several related KPIs, summary KPIs for all the teams of sellers. Another example would be consider average discount per sale. If you're discounting your sales, an account executive or frontline worker can assess their performance by looking at how they're doing deal by deal, while an executive may make a strategic decision to give more or less discounts. You always need to think through what's the end user's perspective, and that way you can provide the best information on your report. So during this process, you need to gather lots of information. Sometimes we focus on our one business contact or one person to give us all the information. They might be a subject matter expert and they deserve that title. But at the same time, take, for example, sales performance management. Comp administrators have a wealth of knowledge, but we also want to dive a little deeper and see what sales operation thinks, sales managers and account executives, and obviously a chief sales officer, or depending on the title, VP of sales, it varies. We want to make sure we interview them, get them all the information documented so we can get the best dashboard possible. Part of this process can get messy. So, you know, I've spent many a time in a room, and it's sometimes a formal session, sometimes informal, that we're building that understanding of the business. And we're, you know, even if you're within a company and you need to understand a new part of the line of business, you want to understand the values to calculate, what and how to display these values. You want to understand their needs. You might discuss the visuals here, but more than likely you're talking about what values, what KPIs, what information is going to be displayed and shared. And at this point, we're not quite focused on those visualizations. We just want to know, what are we going to put up there? And so we can kind of wireframe that out and not worry about all the visualizations and color and so on. We're just focused on telling the right story. And then we can back that up with the visualizations and the added features. So before we go on with some of this this process of requirements gathering and a little bit of design, we're going to talk about dashboard psychology a little bit. You know, as with a lot of this discussion, this subject matter could take days, weeks to go over, and I'm going through it really quickly. So, you know, I got to give credit to lots of different websites and books out there that you can read and gather this information as well. And if you reach out to us, we'd be happy to share some of those resources. So with that in mind, you know, we talk about some Psychology 101, visual cues. So what do visual cues do? They prepare us for the data we're about to process. So when you see a stoplight there, and we see green, you know, that's preparing us for what's next. Go. Yellow, we all know, proceed with caution, or in some cases, step on the gas. Depends on the driver, kind of driver you are. Then we can consider the types of memory. So iconic or sensory is a brief yet lasting memory of the sensory experience. It's already in our brain, typically. So if you look on screen now, most likely, most people, before we got to the bottom there where it says Coca-Cola, we already had a sense of what might be coming, what is this about. And so iconic, it's in that first second. As soon as you see the screen, I see red, green, I already know what's coming and what I might be thinking about. Then we move on to the short term. We hold information we are actively thinking about, and long term is the, you know, something that you're going to code in your head for a lifetime potentially. So when we're thinking about a dashboard, we're thinking about iconic and some of the short term, because there's only so many KPIs we can keep in our head at the same time. A little extra psychology here. There's two kinds of processing, and also very important. This is very, very important when thinking about a report or a dashboard. The first type is pre-attentive. So before you're really thinking about anything, you see color, position, form. I highly recommend watching this video on YouTube. I want to say it's under 3 minutes, and that'll give you, it'll really hit the point, bring the point home. It's the unconscious gathering of information. It's performed automatically in our head, and we look at the entire visual field. And then after the pre-attentive, we get some slow, thoughtful observation. We get a chance to consider the information and what to do with it. So as an example, I found this simple infographic. I'm sure everybody's seen them on LinkedIn and many other places. But what you can think about here is you see the iconic number 1, you see large and small fonts, red offsetting of words and images. Eventually, you read the detail to get the deeper understanding. So that's the pre-attentive and attentive. So now that we're back to in that requirements gathering process and design process, we've talked about some of this background psychology. These are different factors to consider. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's a good list here to start. Some examples: chunking and navigation. Consider the story you're telling and order or group your quadrants or sections of your report appropriately. Repetition. Use one color scheme or maybe the same icon. Color is often used. Sometimes you want consistency, sometimes you want contrast, but at the same time you want to use it sparingly. And can't forget these days, we talked about mobile first. Are using Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, iPhones, iPads, Android phones, so on. You've got to think about it all. So it's not always so simple that you just can throw up a pie chart. There are a lot of options. Sometimes it's a simple graph. Sometimes it's a gauge for conditional formatting. And of course, what is the point of the report or a dashboard specifically? To get that information, make sure there's enough information there, but we want to go that step further and have somebody take an action. And sometimes it's for further analysis. So maybe you're going to drill through to get more information. Sometimes it's physical action. Pick up the phone, call that sales rep, call that finance director, whoever it might be. So what does that look like? So this is one quadrant of a report, and you see this quadrant here, and it tells you some information. You see the red. Maybe you decide, oh, okay, I need to get some more detail here. I see something's not going right, and I see my month-to-date actual is fluctuating. So I click through to get more detail so I can get my answers. So we've gone through a bunch of information. We've worked with our stakeholders. We've gathered information through interviews. We've kind of wireframed things, what's going to go on the dashboard, what might it look like. We've given all of this good thought, and we talked about what kind of action are we going to take. And that's kind of a high-level review of some requirements gathering. But I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some common dashboard mistakes. So sometimes it's just to pick out a few, inadequate context. Sometimes we need to take a step back and consider what a new hire would see or understand. We'd be too close to the data. I don't know about you, but I've looked at the same report, the same numbers, and always see the same thing. Somebody else takes a look at it, they see something different. So someone taught me this a long time ago. try really hard to pretend you're a new hire and you have no context. Does the report tell you anything? And a common one that happens that you have all this great data and you clutter up your display. It's a cliche, but less is more sometimes. And that's why good requirements gathering, understanding the problem at hand and the questions that are being asked to get just the most important KPIs on the screen. So still relevant to incentive compensation management dashboards, if not all dashboards. Here's some examples, or one example with a manager dashboard. And this is just a good, clean example of you've got KPIs at the top, CRM integration down below, and we either read left to right or top to bottom. So we go from the top KPIs down to the bottom. And another example is the repetition of the icon or the same color. And now I could follow everything on the screen quite well. So specific to incentive comp, here's some potential elements that I've personally used or seen on dashboards. There's all sorts of things. Most obvious, you want to have a compensation summary. People want to know what they're going to get paid or what they have been paid and why. And combining metrics is always helpful. Gamification is a buzzword you hear once in a while, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. Sometimes it's simple as a ranking. I'm 7 out of 8. I know I'm at towards the bottom. I probably need to work a little harder, or maybe I'll get motivated to stay strong if I'm number 1 or 2 out of 8. It's always good to, a classic line for sales is lead me to the money. So adding a pipeline and a predictive element can help you see what you're making today and what you could make and what you should be working on. Those are all great elements to add to a dashboard. So here's one more example, and this was created in an older version of ICM, and it's actually not even directly related to pay, but why I like it is even though it's an older version, you still have the classic elements of a good dashboard, quadrants on the screen, sparing use of color. We've got some red in there. We see some trends just at a glance. And if you really want to, I'm imagining everybody can squint at the screen right now, and hopefully, it's called the squint test. You can still kind of get some insights. Oh, I could see the red, I could see a trend, and so on. So as we showed you earlier, we've tried to reimagine the ICM dashboard. So Cognos ICM is a great product. It's got everything you need in there to do sales performance management. But we thought we'd reimagine the dashboard on a mobile-first design. And that's what this was that we saw earlier. We're happy to, if somebody would like us to take them through this in more detail, we're happy to do that sometime. But what I'd like to talk about it is we really did do this as a proof of concept and took a Cognos ICM model, database model, and used that data to create this dashboard, a mobile-first dashboard. And so it isn't just sometimes you see a demo asset and it's smoke and mirrors. There's actual SQL tables for anybody out there that knows Cognos ICM. We created data stores, created star schemas to export out, and using the fact tables and the dimension tables, pull that information through to Cognos BI, and we're able to create this dashboard. So there could be a seamless integration. So some reasons why we wanted to give this a chance. There's increased use of visualizations. Although it's a mobile-first design, as you can see, I demonstrated on a browser. You can still do all the great things you could do, put it in PDF, Excel, and more. Although my story gave an example of being offline, you can be online. There's more flexibility to integrate more great products out there with that predictive element, and speed of integration with all that other enterprise data that you might want to put together. We talked about that maturity earlier. And this is kind of an integrated Salesforce performance solution. So ICM is over there on the left side, but there's all these other pieces to the puzzle that somebody might want to take advantage of, and it all bubbles up to the top for reporting. So that dashboard and other such reporting is kind of a layer at the top, and everything in between here can be done to enhance that reporting and get those actionable results and insights to the company. Advanced analytics, instead of employee churn, that could also be customer churn. And typically all this information comes from this bottom layer of data warehouse, maybe CRM, SFDC is salesforce.com. So there's different data sources, bring them through different systems to do different analytical needs, and at the end of the day, you report on it. This is just one example of an SPM roadmap. So I don't know, it's different for every company, whatever your needs are. But maybe you want some ad hoc insights and forecasting. Maybe you want to implement that accelerated user experience. Maybe quota management is important to you. And at the end of the day, you're looking for that complete integrated solution. I think a recent article I read saying that sales effectiveness implementations increased revenue by 7%. So we're all looking for ways to increase revenue, increase productivity, reduce cost, and getting to that complete integrated solution helps us get there. So we talked about a lot of things. Some items you can apply today, right after this call, is make sure you're discussing your goals and your problems and actions rather than just reporting needs. Sometimes classic problem that I still see in compensation management, people pull out an Excel and say, I want this online and automated. It's good to take that step back and say, what do we really need done? What answers, what problems do we have? And what will drive action and results? So those key questions, you want to worry about the health of sales or compensation. Just like you saw that ugly whiteboard with all those things written on there, you want to model your requirements, tiling those key questions. And if you have dashboards today, ask yourself, are we following these best practices? Do I have too much, too little? Is there context? Bring in somebody from another group to take a look at the dashboard and get their opinion, somebody with an outside eye. And of course, assess your roadmap short and long term. And that kind of relates to here. So we want to assess. This is something Ironside does in various versions depending on the line of business and the needs of a company. So one, you can assess and say, today we're here, and I'd like to be in this future state. And then and that's the gap, and we assess how do we get there. We talked about the maturity. Review what you're doing already. What can you improve upon? What pillars here do you want to take from? Then you can develop a roadmap, a plan of how you're going to get there, what needs to be done. And lastly, you can analyze the options. Sometimes there's these great pie-in-the-sky things that you want to get done, But meanwhile, there's these quick wins that will give impact. They're easy to do. You should get those done. With that, I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I'll let Kristen.
Thanks, Oren. So we had a couple questions come through. Now's the time. If you have a question, just type it into your dashboard there, and I'll read it out. And Oren will be able to answer, as well as Jeff McCusker, who is an account rep. He is on the line as well. So, Oren, the first question that came in was they wanted to know what technology or reporting tool was used to present the data.
So that was Cognos BI. And I'll be honest, my area of expertise is ICM, but that was an active report that could be pushed out to a mobile device through email. And for those curious, it was about a 6 megabyte file. But there's a lot more options with Cognos BI.
Okay, the next question was, is the solution you demonstrated universal to all ICM models?
So we see it more as a blueprint to get any model. You can get any model in that type of reporting, but if you're using the attribute design in ICM, then that's how this was designed. But you could get any ICM model into that same active report with various amounts of configuration. Let's be honest, every company has different requests and levels of customization as well.
Okay, was the demonstration a native application on a tablet or phone?
So Cognos Mobile is an application that you can put on, I believe, Android and iPhone and such devices. So you don't need to have specialized, unique software. This is not an application developed uniquely to one instance, as well as I pulled it up in a browser, so it renders in many different form factors.
Okay, on the maturity or roadmap curve, is that a step-by-step path?
So I guess there's that maturity curve evolving the evolution of SPM, and then there's also those different pillars I showed. It's not necessarily, you don't have to go in order. There's different levels of return on investment, but it's really dependent on your organization. If you have sophisticated quota needs, maybe quota management is your priority, and that should go first. If we do a good assessment where you are and where you want to be, we can help identify the best path for your company. And maybe, if you have those pain points of reporting, then maybe on a high impact dashboard with drill downs is what you need. It varies by company.
Okay. When reporting data to directors and VPs, do you recommend showing data for their entire organization or just their directs?
So it really depends on the needs for that manager or VP. So, crystallizing those KPIs down to a few numbers. So if you're trying to show a whole organization, it depends how you're aggregating that information. So let's take sales, for example, or revenue in general. If there's different lines of business and I manage all those lines of businesses, I probably want to see the revenue number for each in a total. Sales, just the same. I probably want to see my team only because that's what I'm judged against. But if I'm the VP of sales, I want to see all those teams individually. And then a lower level manager might want to see his team total plus each individual person.
Oren, we had a question come in. They wanted to know if you could demo how you designed the dashboard. Not sure if you can do something like that now or if it's something that we would schedule after this call.
That's something we can schedule after the call.
Okay.
Happy to go through that. At a high level, that particular dashboard was a proof of concept, and we took it, there was an ICM dashboard, and we put it in an active report to show some enhanced reporting techniques. But it's a similar process of coming up with the story was the first thing we did. So whoever asked this question, and for anybody on the call, I recommend kind of think about through the story of what a sales manager, what a VP of finance is going to be interested, what questions do they have on a daily, weekly basis, and what problems they have, and how can you help them answer those questions with information. That's the starting point.